the revolution. Do I have Carmen's lipstick on my cheek? I don't know if I've got like the tia kiss or something. If so, I wear it with honor. It'd be a badge of honor. I thank you all so much for joining us and coming together as community tonight. This is a really special and incredible moment, and I'm just always so honored. Thank you. I'm always so honored to share space with people who are willing to take time and who are able to take time, the precious time that you have, that you choose to spend it with us in community, in movement, to change our future, to work to change our future is a true honor. So I just want to thank you all so very much. Today's been a very busy day. We were in Los Angeles earlier today and held a rally with 14,000 people out in Venice Beach. And we sat with organizers that are working to establish housing as a human right. And I could not be prouder to stand in a movement and be part of a movement that truly has and adheres to core values that are indeed revolutionary. Because what we are seeking to do with this campaign is so much bigger and broader than an election. And what we were saying earlier today is that this whole fight and this whole campaign is for us to get to the starting line. It's for us to begin the work of changing this country. Because what we are experiencing right now, I think there's a lot of different analyses, especially in this primary, but here's the one fundamental difference, I think. One very key, crucial question is that, are we here to bring things back to the way they were? Or are we here to transform our future fundamentally? And that is a core and important question. Because I don't know about you, but I don't want to go back to a time when billionaires purchased our elections over and over again. I don't want to go back to students racking up student loan debt year after year. I don't want to go back to our health insurance and our premiums and our co-pays skyrocketing year after year. I don't want to go back to our rents going up. I don't want to go back to that time, because that is what got us here. That is what got us here. So this movement is about root causes. And this movement is about root solutions. And that is what, at its core, we are fighting for. Systems change in the United States of America. And for that, many people would want to call us radical. The belief that in the richest society in modern human history, the fact that we believe no person should be too poor to live is seen as radical. It's seen as revolutionary. The fact that we believe that in this country no one should die because they can't afford insulin is seen as radical. It's seen as dangerous. The fact, thank you. The fact that we believe that people should be afforded an education that fits in a 21st century economy, that is seen as radical too. The reason it is seen as radical is because these policies are dangerous to the established order in the United States of America. It's not dangerous because it will lose an election. Let me make that crystal clear. Let's make it crystal clear, not wine cave crystal. Let's make it crystal clear. The crystal clear I'm talking about is that the vast majority of voters believe in Medicare for all in the Democratic Party. Majority of voters believe that wide-scale action on climate change is necessary in the United States, that we need a Green New Deal. A vast majority of voters believe that tuition-free public colleges, universities, and trade schools is the direction for our future. So when they say these policies are dangerous, they're not dangerous to us, they're not dangerous to this country, they are dangerous to the established order and the distribution of wealth in America. That's what it's dangerous for. And for that, I'm happy to be a dangerous woman. Because we should all be dangerous. We should be dangerous to injustice. We should be dangerous to the presence of racism. We should be dangerous to anyone. We should be dangerous to systems that want to criminalize immigrants. We should be dangerous. We should be dangerous to the indignities of less than a living wage. We should be dangerous to homelessness. We should be dangerous. We should be dangerous to a system that treats us less than we deserve. Let's make this space a place of radical honesty. Raise your hand if you've ever dealt with student loan debt in your life. Keep it raised. Raise your hand if you've ever dealt with medical debt in your life. Raise your hand if keep your hands raised. Raise your hand or keep your hands raised if you know anyone that had to take out a payday loan in their life. If they know a child with student lunch debt. Who puts a child in debt? That is immoral. This right here, if you raised your hand, that's what the 99% looks like in America. And if you raise your hand and you believe in Medicare for all, and you believe that our politicians should be financed by people and not billionaires, if you believe that education should be afforded as a right, that housing is not a commodity for speculation, but a right to be lived in, if you believe that it's time that fossil fuel interests stop running our political system, then I got news for you. You're dangerous too. But the one thing that I've learned in politics in my brief year here, because it's hard to believe, but last February I was slinging margaritas in downtown Manhattan. And for that, a lot of people want to say that I don't know what I'm talking about. And for that, and it's okay, it's all right, I'm used to it. And for that, people want to say that I lack leadership, that I lack experience, that I lack context. But we all know that the people who are experts at these systems are the people who have been directly impacted by them. Nobody, and so I can tell you, nobody knows more, for example, about our health insurance system than someone who has had to navigate these premiums, than a person who has been uninsured. Nobody knows more about our immigration system than the people who have struggled to become documented and do the right thing. No one knows more about our rent laws than people who have danced on the brink of eviction due to skyrocketing rents. There is expertise in being on the front lines and being directly impacted by these issues. And we have to own that. Because this idea that we should defer all of our policy making to technocrats who have never lived this experience before in their lives is mistaken, I can tell you. I now see how policy is made in Washington, and it feels like a national scandal. It does, and it is. And what we need to do is turn this order upside down. But we can do it. And that's the thing that is fundamentally important for us to understand. We have the power to change our future. We can shift our perspectives. And it takes all of us putting the work in. But what I can tell you is that that starting line is a Bernie Sanders presidency. And I'll tell you something about this campaign. It was very similar when I was running for office a year ago. We were running and people said it was impossible. Because I was working a full-time job. I had a grocery bag under the bar with clipboards and some postcards that I made at a copy shop. And I would take the subway back to Queens or up to the Bronx, and I would host little house parties, 5 people at a time. Seriously, I would spend my whole evening trying to convince 5 to 10 people for months. But it added up. And then those 5 to 10 people told their 5 to 10 people, and who told their 5 to 10 people. And at the time, they said that for me to run a grassroots, small dollar funded campaign was impossible because nobody knew who I was. And that if I wanted to, I had to spend all of my time calling the wealthiest people who I didn't even know. I mean, like, this is also one of these funny class differences. It's who knows someone with $2,500 to spare in a max out check? Like, who knows somebody like that? And most people do not. God bless those that do, but most people, that is a class reality. And so I funded my campaign with small dollar donors and trying to leverage emails and social media and all of that stuff. And but I was running against one of the most powerful people in the Democratic Party, the 4th most powerful person. I had $3 million spent against me. I was outspent 10 to 1. And we won anyway. We won anyway. Because we stuck to our values, because we understood the needs, because we stayed on the ground, because we knocked on doors, because we created art, because we posted it up on the streets, because we did everything that we could in order to make it happen. And so when people try to tell me what is possible and not possible, you have to excuse me for dismissing it. What is possible is whatever we deign to create and establish for ourselves. That is what is possible. Now, if we want to talk about things that are hard, that's a different story. Because I will tell you right now, it's going to be hard. It is going to be the fight of our lives and the fight for our lives to stand up to the health insurance industry in this country. It is going to be the fight for our lives to stand up to fossil fuel interests in this country. It is going to be the fight for our lives to stand up to student loan profiteers and payday lenders and big banks. But the thing is, we don't have a choice. As the climate crisis shows us almost most than almost any other issue, is that we literally will not survive this system. We have to change. Our democracy will not survive plutocracy. We have to choose one. And I don't know about you, but I'm ready to choose democracy. I'm ready to choose our country. I'm ready to choose the people, and we have to fight for it. Our country will not survive plutocracy. Our country will not survive fossil fuel, late-stage, hyper-capitalist systems. Our democracy will not survive white supremacy in the White House. Our democracy will not survive any of these things. And because of that, we have to change, and we will have to decide what our priorities are going to be. And what it means is intersectional climate policy. What it means is honoring indigenous wisdom. What it means is fundamentally anti-racist public policy. What it means is decarcerating this country. What it means is guaranteeing a living wage. What it means is a labor movement. What it means is dismantling ICE and CBP as we know it. That is what it means. And in its stead, we are going to replace it with systems of justice. In our earlier rally, we had the distinct honor of having Dr. Cornel West open up for us. And Dr. West has long had a quote that resonated for me from the time I was younger. And one of the things that he says is that justice is what love looks like in public. And I don't know about you, but I want to fight for a loving society. And it's not to be overly sentimental. It's not to be this like bleeding heart liberal type of thing that people like to say, but it's to say that a loving society is an advanced society. And a society predicated on hate, a society that allows race to divide us from our class interest, a society that allows people to die because they can't afford their insulin so that some fat cat can make profits, that's a barbaric society. I want to live in an advanced society. And establishing an advanced society means universal health care for all people. An advanced society guarantees university and trade school education to all people. An advanced society does not separate babies from their mothers and put families in cages. That's not what an advanced society does. An advanced society acknowledges the racial wealth gap in this country. An advanced society does not rely on payday lending. It actually pays people a living wage. We need to fight for an advanced society. An advanced society does not value war among anything else, any other single item in our budget. An advanced society doesn't throw up its hands and say, how are we going to pay for it? An advanced society asks, how do we want to pay for it? A wealth tax, a Wall Street transaction tax, doing what we got to do. An advanced society decides what we want and makes it happen. An advanced society decides that it wants healthcare as badly as it wants a space force. That's what an advanced society does. And that's the work that we have here in front of us today. But I need to level with you all because it's going to take work. It's going to take work. It's like what I said when I was first running. We've got people and they've got money. And so And the thing is that big money is very lonely. It is lonely. We've got people on our side. Because all those dollars belong to such few people. And so it's up to us to mobilize. And right here, we've got, I've heard estimates of maybe 2,000 to 3,000 people here in this gym tonight. We don't need that many more to win the caucus in this state. We don't. If each person, if for every one person here, for every one person in this gym, 10 people show up to caucus, we're well on our way. We are well on our way. And so here's what it's going to take. Every single one of us has something to give to a movement. Every single one of us. Whether it's time, whether it's talent, whether it's one conversation with your neighbor, whether it's translating what you're talking about to your tias and your primos and your family. But we need to get everybody out to the caucuses. That is what we have to do. And so what I want everyone to think about tonight is what they're going to give to make this happen. Because we're not here to be spectators in our democracy. We're here to fight for it. And so we need to decide, are you going to bring someone with you to the caucus? Are you going to create art? Are you going to post it up in the streets? Are you going to host a barnstorm? Are you going to call people in Iowa? Are you going to host a teach-in in your community? We all have something to give, whether it's 5 minutes or whether it's our life. We have something to give. And so what I ask is for us to consider what it is we have to give. And whether it's a conversation or, like I said earlier today, if it's a Facebook post, but don't get into any arguments with people, okay? That's not productive. But share your thoughts or talk about your values or have a conversation. But there's two kinds of swing voters, is what I like to say. There's two kinds of swing voters in this country. There's the classic one that people like to think of blue to red and red to blue, which is, there's something to be said for that. But the swing voter that we are most concerned with are the non-voters to voters. That swing voter is going to win us this election and the general election. So what I need everyone here to do is to go out and get as many of those swing voters as possible. Count how many non-voters you're going to turn into voters. Do that, because that is the kind of mobilization that we need. And one of the things that we did in my primary, something that doesn't get discussed a whole lot, is that we expanded our electorate 68% over the last off-year midterm primary election. That's how I won. We mobilized young people. In my primary, the turnout of under 40 was as high as above 60. So no one can tell me it's impossible. They can't tell us it's impossible. We need to bring as many non-voters to the polls and to the caucuses as possible. That is our central task. And for a lot of people who don't vote, it's not due to being uninformed. There's all of these bad kind of stereotypes about non-voters. And I think a lot of people deserve a lot more respect. Because non-voters, it's not because they're uneducated. It's not because they're apathetic. It's because a lot of people don't want to consent to be governed by nonsense. And that's why they don't participate in our system. So I understand people who are cynical about politics. I completely understand. I have experienced that myself in life. But what we need to communicate is that this time, this year, for 2 days, your primary and the general, it's worth it to believe. It is worth it. Just suspend your disbelief for 2 days out of the year. That's all I'm asking for some folks, you know? And if given that chance, what can we accomplish? We were able to get 68% more people to suspend their disbelief on June 26th of last year. And everything that happened afterward was a result of that. We can enact change in this country, but it takes all of us, and we all have to mobilize. And beyond just organizing for this election, I want all of us to think about how we want to make this part of our lives. Are you going to join your PTA? Are you going to help a friend run for office? Are you going to organize tenants in your community? But it is a call to community that movement making is all about. And I'm just so thankful to be in community with you all today. I'm really, truly grateful for it. And so, with that, I would like to introduce the candidate of the hour, my dear friend and field, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Let me thank you all. Las Vegas, thank you. And let me introduce you to the next First Lady of the United States of America, Jane Sanders.
Good to be here, Las Vegas.
We're going to have to break down the wall next time to get any more people in here. It's a great turnout, and I thank you all so much for coming out a few days before Christmas. We really do appreciate it. Let me thank DJ Cassidy. Let me thank Darla Garcia. Let me thank Kiara Haley, Sandy Redding, and Kevin Lee. And let me thank Mayor Carlin Jeline Cruz of San Juan. And you know what a great mayor she is, because Donald Trump is always attacking her. That tells you about her integrity. And unlike Trump, we know that the people of Puerto Rico are American citizens. We are not going to turn our backs on them. And let me thank Congresswoman Alexandra Ocasio Cortez. It is hard to imagine that this young woman has been in office for less than 1 year and yet has helped transform American politics in 1 year. She has spoken truth to power. She has stood up for the voiceless. She has stood up and helped lead the fight for a Green New Deal. She has stood up for immigrant rights. And I just want to thank her for all of the great work she does in Washington and for her help on this campaign. Now, my only criticism of Alexandria is she just gave my speech. But I'll try to add on. And what Alexandria was saying about people in Washington spending half their lives trying to raise money and the power of the billionaire class over our political process is absolutely correct. What I believe in is a vibrant democracy where ordinary people determine what happens, not wealthy campaign contributors. And that means we are going to overturn this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. We're going to move toward public funding of elections. We're going to end voter suppression. And under our administration, anyone 18 years of age who's an American citizen will be allowed to vote. End of discussion. And our administration is going to deal not only with political corruption, but with economic inequality. We are prepared to tell you a truth that you're not going to see on TV or hear much about in Congress. And that is that it is unacceptable that we have 3 people in America who own more wealth than the bottom half of American society. That we have 1% that own more wealth than the bottom 92%. That at a time when people are working 2 or 3 jobs, 49% of all new income goes to the top 1%. That is not what America is supposed to be about. And I'm very proud to tell you, by the way, in terms of how we fund our elections, at this point in the campaign, we have received more campaign contributions from more people, averaging $18 apiece, than any candidate in the history of American politics. We don't have a super PAC. We don't spend our lives going to rich people's living rooms to raise money. Our campaign is funded by the working people of this country, and our administration will represent the working families of this country. The American people are sick and tired of an economy in which the people on top get richer and richer when we got 500,000 people sleeping out on the streets of America tonight. They're tired of an economy in which half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. The American people want an economy that pays working people a living wage. And that is why we are going to raise the minimum wage to at least $15 an hour. I am tired of talking to people in Nevada, in Iowa, New Hampshire, who are trying to make it a 9, 10, 11 bucks an hour. They can't do it. If you work 40 hours a week in America, you should not be living in poverty. And our administration believes that instead of paying women 70 or 80 cents on the dollar compared to men, women deserve equal pay for equal work. And our administration will believe, sooner than they think, that workers in America have the right to join unions. We believe in the trade union movement. We have legislation in that over a 4-year period will double the number of workers who belong to unions. And here is another radical idea. Our administration believes in education. Whoa! And that means that if you are a working class person here in Nevada or in Vermont or any place else, you have the right to be able to send your little kid to high quality, affordable child care. You have a right to know that when your kids are in public schools, those schools will be adequately funded. That your kids' teachers will not have to work 2 or 3 jobs to support themselves. So what we are going to do is triple funding for low-income Title I schools. And we are going to move to make certain that every teacher in America earns at least $60,000 a year. And we need great teachers in America. No job more important than being a teacher, and I hope that many of the young people here will give consideration to teaching our young kids. And I'll tell you what else we believe. And I grew up in a working class family. I spent my entire youth in a rent-controlled apartment. And I believe from the bottom of my heart that if this country is going to lead the world, that every person in this country, regardless of their income, has the right to get a higher education. And that is why we are going to make public colleges and universities tuition-free. And why we are going to make trade schools tuition-free as well. When we have a government which is designed to represent working people, we think about public policy a little bit different than the current government. Trump and his friends a couple of years ago decided to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% and large corporations. Well, we have a little different approach. What we believe is that we should cancel all student debt in America. How many of you, here's a question, how many of you have or will have student debt? God. Anybody here will not have student debt? That's the, all right. I don't think that people who do the right thing by trying to get a higher education should be punished for it. So what we are going to do, instead of giving tax breaks to Wall Street, we are going to impose a modest tax on Wall Street speculation to pay to eliminate all student debt in America. And I want to say a word about health care. And here is the bottom line. We are the only major country on earth that does not guarantee health care to all of our people. And right now in America, we pay, and I want you all to hear this, we spend twice as much per person on health care as do the people of any other country. We spend about $11,000 for every man, woman, and child. In Canada, most of the European countries, they spend less than $6,000. And yet, despite the fact that we spend so much, 87 million Americans today are uninsured or underinsured. 30,000 people every year die. And they die needlessly, unnecessarily, because they don't have insurance, and by the time they walk into a doctor's office, their situation is terminal. That is. And then on top of that, we pay the highest prices by far in the world for prescription drugs. 6 months ago, I took a group of diabetics from the Midwest over into Canada. And we bought insulin, which is obviously what diabetics desperately need. We bought insulin, the same product, same company, for 1/10 of the price charged in America. So we are going to take on the corruption and the greed of the pharmaceutical industry. We are going to take on the power of the healthcare industry, which last year made $100 billion in profit. And we are going, I want you to hear this too, because this is crazy on top of crazy. Last year in America, 500,000 people went bankrupt because of medically related illnesses. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine a system in which your family is financially ruined for what crime? Because you were diagnosed with cancer or heart disease or Alzheimer's or some other terrible illness. We are going to reject the dysfunctionality and the cruelty of that healthcare system. We will pass a Medicare for all single-payer program. Now, you are going to hear a lot of lies about Medicare for all, because we're taking on the drug companies and we're taking on the insurance industry. We are taking on Trump, we're taking on the Republican Party, and we are taking on the Democratic establishment. So I want you to know what Medicare for all really means. What it means, and it's not a radical idea, it exists in Canada. We're going to do it better here, but what it means, no more premiums. No more co-payments when you go into a doctor's office. We're going to end the insane concept of deductibles. No more out-of-pocket expenses. And under Medicare for all, nobody pays more than $200 a year for prescription drugs. We are going to expand Medicare to cover dental care, to cover hearing aids, eyeglasses, and very importantly, home health care. Now, I am often asked, fairly enough, they say, how, Bernie, are you going to pay for this thing? That's a fair question. But before I answer it, we got to ask how we are paying for it right now. And right now, we are paying for it. If you are the average family in America, you're making about $60,000 a year. You are paying, in that average family, $12,000 a year for health care, 20% of your income. Now you're paying that through premiums, co-payments, and out-of-pocket expenses and outrageous prescription drug costs. Under our proposal, this is what we say. We say health care is not free, health care is expensive. I can't sit here and honestly tell you, hey, it's magically free. But what we do is say, you will pay 4% of your income, exempting the first $29,000. That means if you are under $29,000, it's free. But if you are at $60,000 a year, exempting the first $29,000, you pay 4% on $31,000, which is about $1,200 a year for comprehensive health care. So for those people who ask me how I am going to pay for it, that's how, partially, other ways we pay for it. But they have got to defend why they think families paying $12,000 a year is better than families paying $1,200 a year. And there's another issue out there that has got to be talked about. It has got to be talked about every single day, and everybody here has got to be involved in that discussion. And what the scientists are now telling us is that they have underestimated the severity and the speed in which climate change is ravaging our country and the world. They have underestimated, this is what they're saying right now, the speed at which the Arctic ice cap is melting, in which the ocean is warming, which means rising sea levels, which means that by the end of the century, if we do not act boldly, this planet may be 7 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than it is today, which means that major cities, talking about Miami, New Orleans, Charleston, South Carolina, New York City, will be underwater partially or completely by the end of the century. We're talking about increased drought, which you guys are more than familiar with. But what that means, in addition to hot days, which is difficult enough, what it also means is that the growing season for farmers will be reduced, meaning less crop production, higher food prices, and actually the quality of food deteriorating. What it means is more extreme weather disturbances. You will recall that a month ago, Venice, Italy was underwater because of torrential rains. Same thing happened to Houston, Texas. If we don't get our act together, there will be more extreme weather disturbances. What we're talking about is the acidification of the oceans, which mean that hundreds of millions of people who get their protein from fish will no longer be able to do that because the fish will be dying off in large numbers. What we're talking about is the spread of disease of bacteria that thrive in warm weather, and those diseases spreading to areas that previously did not have those diseases, like malaria. What we are talking about, according to the United Nations, is if we do not get our act together, hundreds of millions of people becoming climate refugees, people who cannot stay in their community because there is no water to drink, there is no land to grow their crops. And think about what it means when hundreds of millions of people start migrating into other people's countries, massive amounts of international tension and war. Anybody who tells you that climate change is a hoax is not only lying, but they are doing a disservice of enormous magnitude to their own children and their own grandchildren. And it is an absolute outrage, something that we will deal with when we understand that the fossil fuel industry, the oil companies, the coal companies, the gas companies, they know what their product is doing, and they have known that for decades. But they have lied about the impact that carbon emissions are having on the planet. Our administration will hold these people accountable for what they are doing. And I'm proud to tell you, very proud to tell you, that what we have done in this campaign is nothing more than listen to the scientists. And what they have said is that we need aggressive and bold action if we are going to combat climate change effectively. And I'm proud to tell you that we have introduced the most comprehensive climate change proposal ever introduced by a candidate for federal office. Our proposal is based on the tenets of the Green New Deal. And that means that as quickly as we humanly can, we will transform our energy system away from fossil fuel into energy efficiency and sustainable energies like wind and solar. And by the way, the state of Nevada, where you get, well, I was here in the summer, it was 113 degrees. You get a bit of sunshine here. This state should be and must be one of the leaders in the country in terms of solar energy. And I want to touch on another issue, which is an embarrassment to me and I think to many of you. And that is, we have more people in jail than any other country on earth because we have a criminal justice system which is broken and which is racist. So what we believe is that it is imperative that we invest in our young people in jobs and education rather than more jails and incarceration. It means that we will end private prisons and detention centers. And it means that we will end the incredibly destructive war on drugs. We will make marijuana legal in every state in this country. We will expunge the records of those arrested for possession of marijuana. And I'll tell you what else we're going to do. This is an idea that I didn't come up with. It came from friends in the African American community and the Latino community. And this is what they said to me. They said, Bernie, it's great that we're going to make marijuana legal in all of the states, but we don't want to see a handful of large corporations controlling the legal marijuana industry. And so what we have proposed is to help small businesses in the African American and Latino and Native American community gain some profit from the legalization of marijuana. My detestation of Donald Trump comes from many, many reasons. But the deepest reason, I think, is that unlike any president in the modern history of this country, he has intentionally divided the American people up based on the color of our skin or where we were born or our sexual orientation or our religion. Now, whether you are a conservative, a progressive, a moderate, whatever you may be, as President of the United States, you have got to understand that your sacred obligation is not to divide us up, but to bring us together. And one way that Trump has created that division is to demonize the undocumented people in this country. Together, we will end that demonization. My father came to this country from Poland at the age of 17, fleeing extreme poverty and anti-Semitism. He came here, couldn't speak a word of English, but became the proudest American you ever saw. We are proud of the history of this country, where people from all over the world, we have probably in this room right now people from dozens and dozens of different countries coming to America. This is what makes us strong. Immigrants have helped build this country, and they're doing it today. So not only do we end the demonization of immigrants on day one through executive order, we will undo all of the racist executive orders of Donald Trump. And that means that on day one, we will reestablish legal status for the 1.8 million young people and their parents eligible for DACA program. It means that we will create a humane border policy which does not snatch babies from the arms of their mothers, does not put children in cages. That is not what America does. And we will pass bipartisan legislation that provides comprehensive immigration reform for all the undocumented and a path towards citizenship. All of us get sick to our stomachs, and we get outraged by the level of gun violence that we see in America. And I don't have to tell if there's any city in America that has experienced that horror. We are in that city tonight. So I don't have to explain that to any of you. And my promise to you tonight is that it will be the American people who determine our gun policy, not the NRA. And that means we will have expanded universal background checks. We will end the gun show loophole and the straw man provision. And we will do what the American people now want us to do, and that is to end the sale and distribution of assault weapons in this country. Now, as a United States Senator, I hear a lot of speeches from my colleagues who are on the floor of the Senate. And very often, I hear from conservative colleagues who get up there and they say, we're conservatives and we believe in small government. We believe in getting the government off the backs of the American people. Well, I say to those conservative hypocrites, if you believe in getting the government off the backs of the American people, understand that it is women, not politicians, who should control their own bodies. So my promise to you is that I will never nominate a candidate for the United States Supreme Court who is not 100% pro Roe v. Wade. Now, Alexandria, a few minutes ago, made the point, and I want to make it again. At the end of the day, we are in a pivotal moment in American and world history. The future of the planet rests in a very significant way on this election. Democracy rests, future of democracy rests on this election. Now, what Trump and his friends want to see is millions of people not voting. That's what they want. They want to tell you, and they will in many ways, vote is irrelevant. Why do you want to get involved in the political process? They will, that's what they will do. You may have read just in the last week that in the states of Wisconsin and Georgia, hundreds of thousands of people, working people, people of color, were taken off the voting rolls. Their names were purged. So Republicans believe that they can win elections by making it harder for poor people, people of color, young people to participate. That's what they want to do. Now, the truth is that we can win this election if we have the largest voter turnout in the history of this country. And we can win the caucuses here in Nevada if we have the largest voter turnout. We are strong in Iowa. We are strong in New Hampshire. We can win here in Nevada. I believe we're going to win in California, do very well in South Carolina. We can win this Democratic nomination, but we can't do it without increased involvement in the political process. And what Alexandria said a few minutes ago is absolutely correct. There are a whole lot of folks out there who have given up. You know them. Some of you are in this room. Given up on the political process. My vote doesn't mean anything. Politics is bullshit. They're all liars. Why do I want to vote? Right? You heard that. All right. But meanwhile, Trump and his friends will spend hundreds and hundreds of millions, if not more than $1 billion, on this campaign in order to get re-elected. What we need to do is participate in this campaign in a way that we have never done it before. We believe in bringing non-traditional voters into the political process. Young people, working people. So what I am urging you today, not just for me, but for all of us and for our kids, is when you hear somebody who said, you went to a Bernie Sanders rally, why'd you waste your time getting involved in that stuff? Explain to them that you are sick and tired of hearing them complain about low wages, their student debt, climate change, racism, sexism. Tell them to stop complaining and get involved in the political process. So we need your help here in Nevada. I'm quite confident that with your help we can win and win big. But I will tell you this, on caucus night, turn on the TV early, and if the moderator tells you there's a large voter turnout, we win. If they tell you there's a low voter turnout, we lose. It's as simple as all that. So our job and what the political revolution is about is revitalizing American democracy, bringing millions of people into the political process to fight for justice, to fight for economic justice, social justice, racial justice, environmental justice. So we're in this together. I got my role to play. All of you have your role to play. So tonight I'm urging you, reach out to your friends, your co-workers, your family. Tell them how enormously important this primary process is, this caucus is, this election is. And if we stand together in this election cycle, if we do not allow Trump to divide us up by the color of our skin or where we were born or our sexual orientation or our religion, if we have the guts to stand up to powerful special interests and their greed and their corruption, if we are prepared to reach out to our friends, brothers and sisters, when we stand together, united, fighting for an agenda that works for all of us, not just the 1%, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. Thank you all very much.